Hey, so you summoned a lesser maker. If you'd like the template that I printed out, it's free in the description. Just follow the link and we can build this together. If you do, tag me on Instagram at Summon Lesser Maker. Right now we're just building some windows with some cross-stitching mesh, 1mm by 1mm like skewers, and some coffee stir sticks for the bottom window sill. And I don't know, I think these turned out really good. The way I'm randomly laying this out on my single square of cross-stitching mesh, and wherever it meets an edge, I just decided to chop it off and make it look like it was blown out or destroyed, without that clean edge at the end. And that's kind of how I decided to damage the building and distribute the damage later. So you can see that later, but here I'm just making another door with the coffee stir sticks, and I mean, it's really easy with the right materials, and this is what they look like. They look really good. I typically model. I have a model on my Patreon for free if you want to download it, and I 3D print it, the like windows. But this adds to more of a like ramshackle looking building that's a little more maybe impoverished or something. I don't know. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting. But you can use this template however you'd like. But I'd like to show an option of scratch building everything from scratch for those who don't have a 3D printer. And then I'm just cutting out the shapes from the template, obviously, with foam core. And I saw a building from MS Terrain. He posted a video. He's a YouTuber. He posted a video a couple days ago, and it had a bump out and then a bump in, which allowed some like models to walk on the bump out of the roof. I don't know. That might not be exactly what was going on, but I saw it and I was like, holy cow, that would be really cool. So I kind of altered the template to kind of fit that idea. And I don't know, I think it shows how versatile a template like this could be, because it's just shapes and squares and the dimensions don't really matter. You can just bump it out and bump it in. It just depends on which sidewall like gets the most length or whatever. Hopefully that makes sense. But anyway, yeah, so I'm just filling in the gaps for the parts that I didn't have a template for right now. And I did alter the template for those who want to make this specific building. It will have that bump out in the correct order when you download it. So anyway, this top part is, I think, the necessary part for the template, because the shapes and the silhouette are what I like when I'm looking at a building. I used a building reference from Edinburgh, I think, and it's not a Tudor house, it's Edwardian or whatever type house, and I don't know, I think you can see that it's a really like symmetrical build. When I was originally building it, I was expecting to blow out like the right half and just have it kind of be like a skeleton of a building, but the ideas while you're building change, so maybe I'll do that and I'll use this template somewhere else and do that like really blown out building, but I didn't this time, so maybe next time. Yeah, so right now I'm just adding some detail with some chipboard. I kind of rediscovered this material pretty recently when I was doing my Necromunda stuff. I actually rediscovered the cross-stitching mesh while I was doing the Necromunda stuff, and I don't know, stuff like that, it really shows like we're branching out into something you don't typically do. Really shows something like maybe a new material or a new process that you hadn't thought of. I had all this extra chipboard already cut, so that's why I used it on my last build while I was live streaming, and it looks really great. Also, it kind of like warps when you spray paint it, and that's what wood would do while it's rotting. So I think it looks really good while like being kind of wibbly wobbly. This is gonna be on the internet, but I don't care. Anyway, yeah, it's gonna be kind of warped and not symmetrical, and like, I don't know, that's how I like my destroyed buildings, kind of destroyed. Go figure. Gosh. Anyway, yeah, so right now I'm adding some clothespins to the understructure to make it look like it has some support. And those clothespins have some like molded structures in there. I think everyone's seen a clothespin, but if you haven't, go grab some. They're a really good building material to kind of add a little more interest in whatever. So anyway, let's go back to that scaffolding. So this scaffolding, I'm doing a bead of hot glue underneath each stair and letting it dry before I put the stair down, and then adding another one on top so that the stair sits level and has something to rest on while it's like gluing. You can see that I'm not holding it down. It just, because of that already hard hot glue, it's just resting there and drying by itself. So I'm going to be using that more, I think. I usually 3D print my stairs because it's so much easier, but I think maybe I'll start making my own now that I've kind of, I don't know, discovered this technique, because it made it a lot easier. Yeah, so I'm gonna kind of let you just watch the rest of this detailing, and then I'll rejoin you in a bit. Okay, so I think at this point I ran out of the chipboard that was already pre-cut, so I transitioned to some of the coffee stir sticks, and I was gluing that on top of the chipboard, and because it doesn't warp to the surface, it actually stood proud, which I think looked really good because it adds some extra shadows in certain places, and it wasn't uniform. So it kind of added to like the really like, I don't know, I'm kind of imagining this house as like a poorer house rather than one of those metal roofed like really nice houses that like some of my other builds. And so having it kind of have 3D, like it had to be restructuralized because it wasn't properly done to begin with. Looks like something that would have been done by like a shanty town type. Obviously, this is much grander than a shanty town, but maybe it's like a hotel or a tavern or a business where they needed to like add those structural integrity stuff. And I don't know. That's just the things I think about while I'm building things. obviously this house didn't stand to the test of time like some of the other ones that I've made. So I feel like this one was just made worse than the other ones. So, yeah. So I'm laying down some aluminum squares, or rectangles, I guess. They're supposed to look like tiling. I don't know how well that looks, or translates, I think is the proper word I'm thinking of. But overall, I am really happy with this look. I'm relatively new to like doing interiors, so anything at this point I think is better than nothing. And I've kind of changed my stance on that. So I'm using some more of those paper shingles that I'd maybe talk about in some of my other videos. So that template will be included in the description. And I cut these out with my Cricut, and it's just paper. So it's like cardstock. That's the word I was thinking of. And I'm just coating it with some glue, white glue, just so it doesn't warp as much as it normally would. It still did warp, but I don't think it added anything or took away from anything. And then with some granny grading, I'm adding some fence details. I started doing this. I 3D printed some fences and added them to my builds, and I kind of needed another way of doing that for the scratch build, so granny grading was a really good substitute for that. What I do is I have one square, like one row that's like all like connected, and then I cut rows so it looks like the fence railing, like the fence poles that hold it to the building are coming up, and they're not like, I think you can see what I'm saying. I can't articulate exactly what I'm doing, I guess, but it's supposed to look like a fence, so I'm cutting a fence-shaped thing out of the granny grading. And if you do it differently, just tag me on Instagram or join the Discord server and show me how you do it differently. I'd love to see that. I'm adding some gutters with plastic straws. This is something I did for, like, I don't know, an added detail that I thought of. And I do it to every build now because it just looks so great. And it just, like, it's such an easy detail that it just adds so much to a build. And so that's why I add it to everything now. It's not necessary, but I think it's like pretty great. I had some time this weekend for spring break to play Mordheim with my son. So I'm playing on my Mordheim board that I built a couple weeks ago. And I like that shot because we were going over the bridge and under it. And it turned out really great. So, yeah, so I'm just adding some tan. I might I might spray paint a base coat of tan next time because I think it might turn out better. Or I just want to see if it's different. I just want to reiterate, like trying something new is always good because you don't know if the process you're doing is the good one unless you try it a different way. So that's why I might change going to a tan spray paint next time. But I do like the way the tan isn't very consistent when you do it. This time it didn't work out as good because I used a lighter color paint for the beams. But if I had done a brown like I typically do, I think that mottled like texture would have looked fine. So as you can see, I'm using a bright purple, magenta, like wet blend or whatever for all the beams. and I did it really messily, and so I had to go back with the tan. But anyway, I thought this looked really bad, and to some of you it might. But I was going with a bit of a fictitious HOA I've said in a previous build, where this section of the board have some bright colors, and I put the build that I did last week next to it at the end of this video, and they don't look too far off. I think with like a wash to unify it when I put it in place on the board, that will make it look a lot better. But right now I am pretty happy with it, so I'm not going to complain too much. I think it's testament to seeing like how things look when they're finished. Just finish the thing you're working on, and it will always be better than you ever thought. So that's what I would like to reiterate to you. As far as painting goes, I'm not a great painter by any means, but finishing a finished paint job, what I should say is a finished paint job is much better than, I don't know if this looks good, and then never finishing it. So that's what I would say. Finish it. You can always paint over it again if you don't like it. So, yeah, so we're getting towards the end of the video. So I'd just like to thank you for subscribing, and just thank you for, being a part of the community. I'd like to see your builds, so tag me on Instagram, join the Discord server, and show me like what you got. Yeah, so anyway, I just really appreciate every person who watches. Download that free template, and I guess I'll see you next time. Have a good one.